Hello, my name is John Overholt. 40 years ago, I used to own the Victoria Trick and Joke Shop, and I used to perform magic tricks, just like this one here called the Illusion of the Rings. And then I had an experience in life that absolutely changed everything about what I was doing in life. And really the only way that I could explain it is that I was there when it happened. See, this experience is really hard to explain because it went way beyond my natural way of thinking. I was an atheist or agnostic, and in those days wanted nothing to do with anything that I would have termed spiritual or religious. I actually believed in evolution. I guess I figured my teachers knew what they were talking about, and so I just went along with them. You ever thought about what you believe? Or are you just going by what others have told you? I mean, that's what I did. I just went with the crowd. I never even thought about the odds of life coming together all by accident, that we got here by some big bang explosion. It'd be like taking, here I got a puzzle here. It'd be like taking a puzzle with all these pieces and then throwing them up in the air and having all the pieces come together and form this beautiful picture. Now that's what evolution is based on. And I mean, the only thing that I know is that explosions just wreck things. And so really the theory of evolution is still without any scientific evidence for one kind changing to another kind. But they had me convinced. I was at a place in life where I was always trying to be somebody, to prove myself, and so I became a magician. I enjoyed fooling people, and I just didn't know that I was actually fooling myself. And have you ever fooled yourself? Are you sure that you have life all figured out? Because one thing for certain, in another 100 years, neither you nor I will be around in this physical body. And you know, the older I get, the more I realize that this body of mine is just not getting any better. You know, I love walking along the seashore, and oftentimes I'll see people building sandcastles, and the tide comes in, the tide goes out, and we grow up, we grow old, and we spend all of our lives building sandcastles in the sand, and then the tide comes in and washes your castle away. Oh, so what's the point of that? Anyway, so there I was in my trick and joke shop, minding my own business, and this teenage girl walks in. She points her finger at me, and she says, "Mister, you're going to go to hell if you don't stop living the way you're living." And then she walks out. You know, looking back at it now, I realize it took a lot of courage for her to do what she did. I mean, at the time, I just responded in anger. I thought, who the hell do you think you are, coming in here like that? But she was out of the door before I could actually get a word out. But it was like a sword that penetrated me. And I thought to myself, whoa, what if she's right? Have you ever thought about heaven or hell? I mean, most people I know avoid the question. Most people here, I'm sure, don't even want to discuss it. I mean, I sure didn't. I was about as far away from religion as anyone could get, and I figured that when you die, you're buried, that's it, and you're done away with, you're toast. And so what was I worried about? But I guess for the first time in my life, I wasn't so sure about my life after death. I mean, we all end up being dead way longer than we were able to be alive. What if I was wrong? What if you're wrong? See, in all of this too, I have learned that, hey, we are the ones who choose this. See, I had been listening to everybody else's theories for 28 years. So I thought to myself, well, maybe I need to find out for myself. So I made this rather sheepish but determined prayer. I said, God, if there really is a God, I'm going to find out for myself if you're real or not. And so I ask you to show yourself to me. Now, if you never prayed much before, that's a really good one to start, because it definitely changed my life. You know, it wasn't long after this rather feeble prayer of mine that this question came to mind. And the question was this: John, are you here by accident, or did someone actually create you? And as I started to ponder this question, I realized that this for me was very significant. Because if we're here by accident, some cosmic explosion, evolving over millions of years, then it doesn't really matter. But if we are here because someone actually created all of this, well, for me, I knew that would change everything. And it would for you too, if you thought about it. Yeah, so everywhere I looked, I would ask myself this question: accident or creation? Now, if you were on the trail somewhere and you saw a watch on the ground, would you think, oh, I wonder if this got here over millions of years through the chance bumping of atoms together? Or would you think, well, perhaps this came here likely because a watchmaker actually made this? So my question is, why would it be so difficult to imagine that this fern was made by someone? I mean, have you ever looked at a fern? Have you ever looked at the complex nature of a single cell? And then the DNA that and the molecules that actually make up the atoms and all that? I mean, this is far more complex than even a watch. So anyway, so there it was, after 3 months of looking and seeking, thinking accident or creation. I was like did someone actually make this sandwich, or did it just appear by some random explosion? Because becoming a Christian, you have to think. Have you ever thought about whether there really is a creator or not? Because if there is, don't you think that would change how you think and how you live? I'll tell you this, it did a number on me. So even though I logically knew that we just didn't get here by accident, and that most likely some being obviously created me, I still wasn't sure how I could ever relate to such a being. So I thought, well, maybe the Bible has some answers. Have you ever tried reading the Bible? Man, for me it was I had a hard time getting into it. It was kind of like reading sawdust. And so I turned to the back of the Bible I had, and in the back it had 50 excuses people have for not becoming a Christian. And so I started reading these excuses, and I realized, wow, I've got all these excuses. Then I had little answers for each one, an explanation for all these excuses. So now I became excuseless. What was I to do? And then it gave a little explanation on this is what you need to do to become a Christian. So after 28 years, this was the first time I had ever read that there was a way to get connected to God. I'd never heard this before. Or, well, maybe I just wasn't listening. But what got me was that, wow, this was so simple. Have you ever heard what it takes? Well, let me first tell you what it doesn't take. It doesn't mean you have to do something religious, because religion tries to control you from the outside. Wear this, don't wear that, say this, don't do this, do that, don't do this, on and on and on and on. See, the one who made you wants to relate to you and wants to come so near that he comes actually to live in you. And there's only one thing right now that stands between you and God. Now, when I say it, you'll probably flip the channel because you don't want to hear it. First of all, God is perfectly good and kind and just and loving and wise and free from any wrongdoing. And I'm not, and you're not. The only thing stopping you from being connected to God is the part of you that God can't join himself to, namely the wrongdoing in your life. And using a word that nobody likes to hear anymore, it's called sin. I know, stay with me here. This is absolutely crucial to understand, and so many people miss it. Because God is absolutely holy and pure, and he can't mix himself with you because you're not holy and pure. Or perhaps you think you are. Perhaps you think that if you just add some goodness to your life, that your sin will be covered up. A lot of people do try that. For example, would you serve your guest a chocolate chip cookie with just a little bit of dog poop thrown into it? Now, people think that sin is an old-fashioned concept, and yet it's the only thing that's really remained constant. The wages of sin is still spiritual death. Now, if you imagine this book, for example, to be sin, it's the one thing that stops you from being connected to God. See, this is not a difficult concept. Get rid of the sin in your life, and you can have a relationship with the living God. That's why Jesus came on the scene. I had no problem with sin. I knew that I had lots of it, and I knew that for sure. And for 3 months, I examined evidence, accident, creation. How could there not be a designer to a world full of design? And if there was ever a sinner, yes, I was one, and I really didn't have happiness. And like Mick Jagger, I couldn't get any satisfaction either. I knew that there was an emptiness deep within me. And in my mind, I knew there must be a God, but somehow I needed to step into this unknown dimension called faith. I needed to turn my life over 100% to God. So like in a poker game, it was like I took all my chips and I said, okay, I'm all in. So finally, after 3 months, while everyone in my family was in bed for the night, I got down on my knees, and with all my heart I said, yes, Jesus. And with those words came a sincere acknowledgement that I needed a Savior, and that I was giving up my life and following after him. And immediately, something happened on the inside of me that has changed me forever. Looking back at it now, I can honestly say that's when my life started that's when I started to live. It was like I was born again. And a lot of people have asked me, well, how do you know? See, when the God of the universe comes to live inside of you, believe me, you'll know, because I was there.